Welcome, chemrats, hive mice, and sump ghoulies, to another thrilling edition of the unexplained, mysterious, and extraordinary. Keeping you up way into fourth shift, since if you're awake, you can't hear what goes bump in the night. We are 665.66 UHMR Chemrat Radio.
And don't you worry, if it goes screech in the night, it's probably just a vampire bat snake. Not a four-armed emperor. Coming to you live tonight from Bexy's Flackenjack. Get your rusty paws on pony barrel of Devil's Comet Amasek all week long.
As long as I don't have to hear another drunk hiver mistake me for the talent like Kev over here say, "Damn girl, am I gonna get in that puss like it's the drop site massacre of Isfahan 5?
Any port in a storm, my friend. Any port in a storm.
Wow.
They never saw it coming.
Oh my god, they never saw it coming. It was
Sounds
the
like
pause.
somebody's
It
ready
was the
for some
pause.
docking.
I am your trail guide through the cosmic twilight of the collective unconscious Goblin King, joined by my co-host, always ready with a compass and map, just in case I get too far off the reservation, Marky.
Yo.
The polar bear of the Frost Hollow himself, ChuckerFly, who's here to keep both of us from wandering too far afield.
I just want to say, Marky, if you were a line or a rail of warp dust, I'd go down on you.
Thanks, man. It means a lot.
About... Oh my god, I can't read the next line. About to cut a bitch, unless, of course, they offer up top dollar. It's the Shiv Master of Grift Alley, Emmy.
Hey guys.
And the Dancer Extreme, twirling away up on the stage, even if he doesn't have them three titties. It's the guide to the infinite of guesswork, Kev.
Actually,
Uh-oh. Funny story.
Who doesn't have three titties? Actually.
I'll just leave it at that.
Kev's over here getting chromed up.
Kev, how many push-ups do you have to do for that third one? I'm just wondering,
The trick is you have to do halvesies in between. Otherwise, you get 4.
Ah, got it. Well, welcome to Lorus Obscurus, episode 15, all about the Mothman. We were going to do a little bit more on the haunted forests, and we were going to focus on the Appalachians. We were going to look at the Appalachian forest, the Appalachian Trail, and all the things Appalachian, the old gods, all that stuff. If you're familiar with any Americana horror, you probably have heard of the Appalachians and the Ozarks before. Those are two different regions that felt like forests until we started digging into them, and then they felt like regions in and of themselves with a lot of different stories. So we're going to approach them not as haunted forests or haunted jungles, and we're kind of going to step away, for the time anyway, from haunted forests and haunted jungles. And we figured, what better time than the anniversary? And I should know the math on this. What anniversary? What is the anniversary? How many
You said
years
1966?
1966. And it's 2023. So it's 57 years? Is that right?
That
is
sounds
correct.
right to me,
So
yeah.
the 57th anniversary of the Mothman sighting in between 1966 and 1967. It happened in November. Happened from November of 1966 to December of 1967. So we're bringing it to you in November. We're talking about Mothman. This is our second major cryptid that we've been covering. We've covered, we've talked a lot about, we'll get into it a little bit later. We talked about a couple of other cryptids. We definitely did our Bigfoot series, but this is our second big cryptid. Before we jump into this, Emmy, as our guest tonight, Emmy, if you guys are familiar with any of our shows, is our co-host on Under the Realms of Madness, where we cover Warhammer fantasy lore. But Emmy, a rite of passage, if you will, to Lorus Obscurus is that we need a haunted story from you. Something that's happened to you, something that's happened to somebody you know, a creepy experience, a ghosty, paranormal, creepy experience that you have had in your life. That is the barrier to that's the admission cost to a Lorus Obscurus event. We're putting you on the spot.
Okay.
Dun, dun, dun.
Honestly, I have not had until very recently anything kind of paranormal happen to me. But now that I've moved in to my new apartment, in the corner of my bedroom is this little brown IKEA shelf that I put all my minis on. And nothing weird has happened except that my cat just likes to hang out right in that corner. And she just sits like a person up in that corner. And I have this wax melt warmer thing. And there are days that I do not turn it on. And it's just on. It's like this light is, this wax melt warmer is always going, whether I turned it on or not. And my cat just likes to stare at that corner like there's something there. Freaks me out, man. So
You might have house goblins.
house goblins.
Yeah.
Nah, dog, pass.
Tell me more about these house goblins.
If they ain't paying rent, they getting kicked out.
They ain't paying rent, they get kicked out. So house goblins. So a lot of our like folklore tales, and one of the reasons that we do Lorus Obscurus is because we're a lore podcast, and lore in Warhammer 40k and Warhammer Fantasy Battle and all that stuff is very obviously based on the idea of like storytelling and lore in the real world.
Mhm.
So a lot of folklore that we have comes from Europe. It comes from our ancestors, the people who came across the ocean, whether or not they came across the ocean from Europe or whether or not they came across the land bridge and they brought their stories from
Mhm.
Africa and Asia with them, depending on which way that they got here. A lot of folklore stories came here. So a kobold in German mythology is a very, very small, about the size of a piece of coal. And they came in like 4 or 5 different varieties. There's a fire one, there's a water one, there's an earth one, yada, yada.
The name makes so much more sense when you say it's also the size of coal and that
Yes.
it's German.
Yeah.
Like, so they literally, it's basically like a coal monster.
Yeah, they're not lizards or as Blizzard made them out to be, rats with candles on their heads. Kobolds are
They're
originally were just little
0-1
pieces
creatures
of like,
in Magic the Gathering. They're like so weak.
Yeah.
They're just little guys.
Oh, really? That makes sense. So they would do stuff around the house, and depending on which type of kobold you had in your house, it would be positive or negative. So, for instance, like the fire kobold might make you a meal while you weren't paying attention. So, you come home from a long day of working in the field, and all of your candles are lit. There you go. Your burner, your incense, not your incense, your candle burner in the corner is on already. It wasn't supposed to be. And then there would be like a pot of porridge boiling on, in the fire already.
Mhm.
And the saying was, "Oh, that's the house kobold or the house goblin."
Can I get
Oh.
one of those fire ones? I like that.
Well, how do I get them out? How do I get rid
the
of
problem-
them?
How do I
is-
get one of those?
How do you get it? That's the two
It
sides.
sounds like you just need to like trap it and give it to Chuck.
There you go, right? So that the opposite side to that is that some of them are very mischievous. And then of course there's brownies, there's sprites, there's a bunch of different like little creatures that are all kind of the same. But the idea of a house goblin is essentially this kind of same idea. So to
That
get
kind of like a
fully
mind
into
goblin.
it, a what? A mind goblin? Mind?
Yeah, is that kind of like a mind goblin?
A little bit. So that the concept is, are you making a joke? Because there actually is a thing called. So there's a whole weird thing. where you
Mind
make-
goblin, these nuts.
Oh,
That
God
was
damn
the
it, Marky.
joke.
Oh my god.
Were you waiting for me to be like, what's a mind goblin?
Yeah, you ruined it.
Hey,
Thanks,
hey
man.
Marky, what's
No,
a
you
mind
still got it,
goblin?
Thanks, man. I feel better now.
Hey, Marky, what's a dragon?
I know.
Right, I gave it to you. You should have been like dragging these nuts across your face or something.
There's another
Oh
one.
my
There
God.
was when you go to the supermarket, you go and you weigh your groceries on that thing.
Yeah.
Okay.
for the vegetables.
What's the measurement that it's
On a scale?
it's in
Pounds?
yeah, pound these nuts in your mouth.
Wow.
Oh my God.
That was a lead up.
There you go.
I actually didn't know where it was going either. I'm like, I'll play.
All
So
right,
You should have
I'm
said
done.
kilogram just to fuck with him.
I know.
I
I
should've.
would be
I
like,
really
no, the American one.
it'd be like kilogramming these nuts in your mouth.
Cramming these nuts in your mouth.
There you go. That's it. Kilogramming.
I'm on a good one tonight.
All right, so house goblins. So there's this entire idea, and this would require a deep dive and like research and a bunch of stuff to like explain better. But very, very briefly, there's the idea that there's an alternate reality to ours known as the Goblin universe. And the Goblin universe is this alternate plane, this alternate reality that crosses over with ours every once in a while. And this alternate dimension, alternate plane, whatever you want to call it, is inhabited by things that we would consider ghosts or goblins or gremlins or anything like that, anything that kind of just minorly messes with you. So when you put your keys down, when you come into the house and you put your keys down, like in your bowl next to your doorway or whatever, and then your keys vanish and you can't find them for like several hours, and then you ask somebody to help you find your keys, and they immediately pick them up from the bowl that they've been in the entire time, even though you've looked there a bunch.
Yep.
Goblins.
The idea is that the house goblin took the keys and hid them from you for a little while.
Just
and
to mess
it's
with
usually
you. Just for fun.
Yeah.
Like
and
it's not like malicious intent. It's literally just for fun.
Yeah. And it's usually a little bit more like prolonged, like your favorite pair of shoes. It's not something you need. It's not something as immediate as like your key. You need your keys to leave the house. You don't need your favorite pair of shoes. You can wear a different pair of shoes. So it's usually a little bit more like that. But like food going missing, the remote going missing for those of us who, any of those little things.
That's actually called children.
Kind of blamed. Well, yeah.
I
said house goblins.
Yeah, children are just house goblins from a crotchal origin.
Yeah, the crotch goblins.
Crotchal origin.
They're overbaked spunk. It's fine.
Ooh. Careful, if you leave it in there too long, it might start to ferment.
It grows opinions and arms, and you have to feed it.
Critical thinking.
Chuck knows all about that based on his laugh.
Yeah, I do. I know.
So house goblins are just one of those things. So like a lot of times lights that turn off and on in a room, like it's one of those things. It kind of depends on what you believe in. If you believe in like ghost activity, or if you prescribe the ghost activity, you'll find ghost activity and stuff. Or if you kind of go with this alternate dimension thing, you'll see this or that and other things. One of the interesting things to me about that is that, and I tease my partner, my fiance, with this a lot, because she and I have always had dogs, and the dogs have a tendency to like stop what they're doing and stare into the other room or stare into the corner. And it's always the same corner, and they're always like extremely intent. And every time she's like, "What are you looking at?" Like she asks the dog, like, "What the hell are you looking at?" I always tell her that the dogs are looking at the murdered Victorian children standing in the corner of our room.
Oh my God.
Like, our house was built in the 1940s, so there are no murdered Victorian kids here. But the last time I told her, it was like 3 a.m, and she's like, "You can't make jokes like that." And I'm like, "Who says it's a joke? That's literally what the dog is staring at." So there you go, Emmy.
I see it too.
It's the murdered Victorian child in the middle of in the corner of the room, just staring. No, I'm kidding.
Speaking of children, I have a story. I think I don't know if I've shared with you guys or not.
Okay, hit us.
A little bit of history. I'm pretty sure I shared this story with you, but I used to have this recurring dream of where I would fight Chucky, right? The little doll, and I would like long dream short. I would run towards him and start beating the shit out of his face, right? And then he would bite my hand, and I would wake up. Like he'd catch my knuckle in his teeth, and I'd wake up. Well, I had another Chucky dream not so long ago.
Did he bite something else?
Wow, Chuck.
No, we were fighting in like some kind of room. It was almost like Family Guy style, like just beating the shit out of each other.
Like when he fights the chicken?
Yeah.
Dude, I'm envisioning this in my head right now.
Yeah,
I'm envisioning this in my head right now. That's kind of what I was
thinking of when you started.
With Surf and Bird playing in the background?
Yeah, right, exactly. And he got the best of me, and I tripped. And I remember laying flat. And I don't know how or where he got it from, but he had a jar of acid that he was about to pour on my face slowly. And as he was tipping it over, I woke up. And when I woke up, someone was above me with their hand in my face in the same position that Chucky had that acid jar.
Oh, man.
So I grabbed that arm.
Oh, no.
and was
And
about to
threw little
murder
man across the room.
and was about to murder my wife because apparently I was moving a lot in this dream,
Damn.
and she was trying to wake me up or see if I was okay. And so I grabbed her arm extremely
Wow.
hard, and now she doesn't wake me up anymore. She's like, I've never seen you look at me that way. And I'm like, yeah, that's a good thing. If you ever do see me look at you that way, you probably did something wrong.
Like try to smother me with acid in my sleep, man.
Exactly.
The only people that see that look out of my eye are the people that's the last thing they see.
Yeah, it was a little
Sent
intense.
Marky to a dark place.
Yeah, I'm fortunate enough to be able to fall asleep very quickly. She is not. So I fell back asleep, and then later in the morning, she's like, I couldn't sleep after that. And I was like, I slept just fine. I don't know. Don't put your hand in my face when I'm sleeping. I don't know.
She was trying to wake you up, man.
She was. Yeah, I felt bad. I felt horrible.
I have sleep paralysis, which I'm pretty sure I've mentioned. I'm pretty sure we've talked about it more than once on the show. But I scream in my sleep. Well, to me, I'm screaming in my sleep, but to my partner, she just hears like whimpering, and she knows what's going on, and she wakes me up. But yeah, it can be startling. The first couple of times somebody else wakes you up when you're having like a nightmare, it's definitely a startling experience, even, well-intentioned or not.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, it's crazy how feelings can carry over after dreaming. Like if you have like those, at least for me, I don't know if it happens like this for you guys, but like if someone that a loved one dies in my dreams, like I kind of have like a bummed out day. Like my day just kind of is bummed out, and like I kind of have that feeling.
Like, well, because you act like your dream, you experienced that.
Yeah, right.
Like whether or not it's real, quote unquote real,
Right.
it was real to you in that moment.
Right. Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah, it's just a little weird. I've never like woke up and started beating my wife or anything. Just full disclosure. Just
lay that out there.
Just so everybody knows.
I actually enjoy my dreams and my nightmares because I don't get them very often. But when I do, it's usually like a week straight. I'm like, oh yeah, it's movie night. It's kind of how I see it. I don't know if it's a little psychotic, but I enjoy my dreams, especially when they're when you have those lucid dreams that you can kind of control, and like you can kind of do stuff.
Yeah, those are fun.
I have a lot of dreams about
Most of mine are
mathematics
those.
and
really
engineering
When I get 'em.
and stuff, and
That's fun.
Huh.
it's not, because it's
So-
always related to work. It's always crunching
Oh,
numbers and like
God.
work stuff.
It's not
I
like
don't get-
designing a spaceship or something.
No,
Yeah.
it's all categorical signs of approaching burnout. Like when you
Oh yeah,
even
yeah.
your
Dreaming about
dreaming time is spent dealing with work stuff.
Yeah,
your
I've had a
brain
couple of
can't
those.
turn
They suck.
off, and it's just yeah.
Yeah, the hardest thing that I've found to do in dreams is fly. There's only a few dreams that I've actually like successfully to how I
Captured
wanted.
that ability.
Yeah, like a lot of the time it's almost like a fly, and then you're like, oh, I gotta land. Then fly, and oh, I gotta land. But there's been a couple dreams. I don't know if you guys have the same experience. But
No,
I
my
had a
dreams
dream.
have all been crushed.
Thanks, Chuck.
a lot of my dreams, like oddly enough, involve not being able to stop a car. I have that dream a lot, like that brakes don't work or the brakes work
Yeah.
but the car doesn't stop. That happens to me a lot. And a lot of those feel very real. Like when I wake up, I legitimately feel that like I've been in a car accident for like the first 5 minutes.
Yeah, like
And it goes
the
away,
adrenaline's going.
but-
Yeah.
That's crazy. So you've had no other like ghost, spooky, cryptid based experiences. You've never been followed by something weird in the woods. You dropped the bomb on us a couple of episodes ago, Emmy, that your parents own quite a bit of land in either Montana
Yes.
or Wyoming, right?
In the wilds.
Yeah, like in the middle
Wisconsin,
of nowhere.
in the middle of nowhere,
Okay.
Wisconsin. Yep.
Nice.
I don't know. Sometime we should go out there and just fully like Zach Bagans it with like the digital recorders. See if we can't catch some ghost
yeah.
on camera.
Have a little Blair Witch camp out.
Like get one of those things that like, that makes them say words, like that reads through the dictionary and like the radio transmitter. just see what they're saying.
Full
just
blown
have
ghost
a-
hunt.
Just have a skilled audio editor
hmm
that can change whatever garbage you record to sound like words.
Now sponsored
Sorry,
by
homie,
Blue
don't play that.
Apron.
right.
Use code under the hive. Yeah, we can do that. It'll be really great.
You've actually never had like a weird experience, like 'cause I kind of feel like you bury the lead here. You're like, oh yeah, nothing's ever happened. We should totally go to this place that's not haunted at all. But in the back of your head, you're like, they're
Okay,
gonna
She's
no.
like,
die.
these guys are gonna fucking.
She's
There was
like-
one time.
She's
There's one
like,
time.
I'm not gonna let you guys know what my parents are actually into.
Uh-oh.
So we have this little like fire pit area. It's maybe 50 to 100 feet from the house. It's in this little
Okay.
clearing, and it's sort of like we have some chairs around it and some sticks if you want to poke a marshmallow or whatever, country shit. And one time we were out there just enjoying some bonfire time, and it legit at one point there was just the sensation of me being bit hard on the shoulder. I turn around, there's nothing there.
Now
So
that, like-
there was
like-
that,
Like full on mouth or like insect?
like a mouth, like a
Oh, that's freaky.
and
See,
I don't know
Like
if
a
I
so
like
something has
ghost
happened.
wolf or something.
maybe I just had a muscle spasm at that moment.
Nah,
I would
that's
have
not what happened.
straight
Nah.
peed myself.
Chuck, no.
No,
Nah.
I freaked out. And then everyone,
Wait,
my
you-
brother and all his friends were like, whatever, you're just making
there-
stuff up.
Was there any bruising? There any bruising on your shoulder afterwards or scratches?
No, but it was the summer that I got Lyme disease.
Oh wow.
There you go. Giant
You got
tick walked up.
wow.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you got eaten by a giant tick.
So I've dealt with my fair share of ticks, and that's always kind of been like
Spooky
a
tick.
background. That's always been kind of a background fear. Was that like? I mean, I don't mean to pry, but how awful was that?
I mean, there's like 48 hours I just don't remember.
Damn.
And then they
Damn.
gave me like
the Lyme?
antibiotics, and they were like, if you don't take one of these for the next, like once a day for the next month, half your face could just be paralyzed. So like, I don't have the chronic
wow.
one.
Jesus.
It was like an acute one,
How
and I had
come-
to take a shit ton of antibiotics, but
Right.
How come you
Right.
just didn't eat a bunch of what was it? Bunch of oranges and start talking like a pirate?
Is that a thing that you can do for oh,
that's scurvy.
Scurvy.
That's scurvy. That's different.
he
That's
was making a
Lyme
Lyme.
disease.
He was making a Lyme disease joke,
my
and it took me a minute
God.
to get that he was making a Lyme. That's the dad. That's the dad of the podcast right
There
there.
you go. I don't get
Fun-
I
fun-
don't do dad jokes that often, but you're welcome.
Fun fact: the Lyme
Is
was the
Lyme,
cure for
Connecticut.
scurvy,
Yeah,
and
Lyme Connecticut.
that's how Limeys got the slang.
Yep.
Oh, really?
Yep.
Oh,
Yeah,
interesting.
Because the Americans didn't do it. The American sailors didn't do it. It was there was a British thing.
Interesting. There's two different types of Lyme. Well, there's a couple of different types of like Lyme disease, but yeah, one of them's the one where like one of the side effects is you can't eat meat anymore for the like red meat anymore for the rest of your life. Like there's weird shit that
Yeah.
can happen.
I heard there was a mosquito distributing that in Texas. And
Yeah.
I was
Yeah.
like, that is like the worst place on the planet for
Huh.
that to be spread. Like those people are going
Like
to
you
lose their
can't
fucking
have barbecue
mind.
anymore.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
It's horrible.
So
I
I
feel
mean,
like that to a
can,
Texan,
but-
like they're just going to go kill themselves.
You can have barbecue, but it's going to be squash.
Exactly. Could you imagine telling Hank Hill that? Like,
Right? Like you can't eat meat anymore, Hank Hill. Well, I might as well die.
I just want a picture of a
Whoa.
god dang hot dog. All right.
So I got a-
So, what were you gonna say?
Oh, I got a recent spooky one.
Oh, you do. You want to do it now, or do you want to do it after we do the Ordo Obscurus?
Do the Ordo Obscurus first.
okay.
All right. All right. So as we do, folks, we're going to jump into an Ordo Obscurus file that we have prepared for you, and then we will we'll do a couple more spooky tales, and we will talk about the Mothman himself. But Emmy, as our resident tech priest cosplayer, I'm going to have you take over the tech priest duties from Kev this episode.
Okay.
Ooh.
We got Ordo Obscurus file SW0138. Vox Cogitator Net Access Ordo Obscurus Inquisitorial Archive Segmentum Obscurus Dunwich Sub Classification Magenta File number OMDD Carsec SW0138 Ordo Malleus Drake Destina Object Class Malleus Euclid Disruption Class Low Risk
Inquisitorial Containment Procedures. SW0138 is a mysterious entity referred to as the Warp's Whisperer and is believed to be a warp-based being with connections to the Immaterium, although it has never shown any indication towards or a strong connection with any of the known ruinous powers. SW038 has proven near impossible to contain, banish, or defeat, as it is an anomalous ability to traverse both the physical and warp space at the same time. Sightings, however, seem to occur in clusters of events within the Carcosan sector, normally acting as a herald to some oncoming warp event, such as warp storms or the reemergence of any number of space hulks that have had a history of appearing within the Dunwich subsector. Quarantine procedures, as dictated by Ordo Malleus, are to establish a blockade of any planet with more than 13 sightings of SW0138. All subjects are to be gathered and isolated to undergo interrogation. Those attempting to enter or exit any quarantine zones are to be eliminated with extreme prejudice. Shadow breakers are to be employed to enforce planet-side blockade efforts, although in extreme cases, the Grey Knights have been called in. It isn't uncommon for clustered cases to center around the sites of future natural or civil disasters, such as the collapse of Hive Kesserik's Spire spaceport in 876.M40, which led to the deaths of nearly 40 million people. In rare cases, those who have been witness to these sightings begin to show stigmata of the Warp's Whisperer in the form of black feathers, black scales, and even vestigial wings. While the taint of chaos corrupts these unfortunate souls, twisting them into a bizarre shadow of the creature itself, they show no signs of being connected to any of the known dark powers. Entire districts have still been lost to riots and wars over dedication to this figure, however, and swift action is needed whenever sightings occur, or this end is almost inevitable. Quarantines last as long as they need to, but as the entity has never been seen in more than one location at a time, and never for more than 6 solar months at any given time, they are eventually relaxed. While cleansing actions are needed in some cases, most detainees can be released after a sufficient observation period, although they are often continuously tracked by the ecclesiarchy, arbites, and administrator marshals for as many months afterward to ensure their adherence to the continuing imperial truth.
Description brief. SW0138 is a 12-foot tall, slender humanoid entity covered in black scales and feathers, with a set of massive bat-like wings sprouting from its back, giving it a wingspan of close to 25 feet. Red eyes sit in a flat, wide head nearly as wide as its shoulder width, which protrudes forward on a serpentine-like neck. While it has never been observed attacking anybody, its mouth is full of razor-sharp things with lower pronounced upper and lower canines. SW0138 is known to manifest near areas with high levels of warp activity, often preceding major warp rift openings or other significant warp-related events. The entity's appearance is accompanied by an intense feeling of foreboding and the manifestation of warp anomalies, such as temporal distortions and reality fluctuations. Civil and natural disasters also commonly follow the Warp's Whisperer's appearance on planets it is sighted on. Whether this is a result of its ability toward prophesizing events or a side effect of the coming warp anomalies, it is unknown. Ordo Obscurus savants have recorded more than 300 encounters with the Warp's Whisperer, each coinciding with incursions from the warp. This has led to speculation that SW0138 may be a natural occurrence of the warp rather than an entity attached to any of the ruinous powers. It seems to act as a harbinger of disaster as well as accurately predicting coming warp anomalies. Most commonly, the resurgence of one of any 10 designated space hulks. To date, no communication attempts made with SW0138 have proven successful. The entity is either incapable of communication with humanity or chooses not to, Most of those who have had encounters with SW0138 report brief interactions, a feeling of overwhelming dread, and the need to run. While some heretics have gone on to worship the entity itself and form cults to it, these are rare and extreme reactions. In some cases, a secondary entity, SW0138-1, has been observed before or around the entity's appearance. SW0138-1 appears to be a large feline similar to a grinx or other psychoactive feline species, and is noted to have an unnerving Cheshire cat grin. SW0138-1 also has the ability to communicate telepathically and verbally. Although how the feline vocal cords can mimic human speech is unknown, this is a temporal warp entity, and any attempt to capture, contain, or destroy it has met with little to no success. While the entity's Cheshire cat grin is extremely unnerving, it has proven to almost be entirely harmless and more curious about those encounters than anything else. Any deeper connection to SW0138 remains unknown. Ordo Malleus' standard operating procedure is to observe and maintain distance, gleaming any information from SW0138 appearance as can be. All non-inquisitorial personnel and civilians who come in contact with SW0138 are to be detained immediately for interrogation by Ordo Malleus, Ordo Hereticus, or Ordo Xenos personnel. Under approved circumstances, interrogations can be performed by Adeptus Arbites personnel or Administratum Martial personnel. Under no circumstances are unauthorized personnel to attempt to engage with or speak to the entity.
Inquisitorial notes, transcription of events. These are from the personal logs of Inquisitor Drake Destina. I first encountered the entity known as SW0138 on the Hyperion world of Galexis 6. My investigation into the Midden Hive food riots and their potential connection to the forces of the ruinous power known as Nurgle led me to the discovery of a minor cult known as the Black Swan. Upon initial investigation, it seemed that this cult, the Black Swan, would have had potential ties to another ruinous power, that known as Slaanesh. However, it soon became evident that this cult wasn't following any known or cataloged rituals or sacraments known to have connections to either of these dark powers. The effigies that they built in support of this power or entity didn't follow known or cataloged effigies to Slaanesh or anything else, nor did they possess any known or cataloged relics of these dark powers. It was at this point that my investigation shifted to determine where this cult's true loyalties and intentions might lay. We discovered, to my horror and great surprise, that an infestation of insects similar to those of ancient Terran locusts were actually to blame for the food riots. These insects had consumed a great quantity of the imported food stocks on Midden Hive. It was simply a convergence of random chance that had brought me to Galexis 6 in time to discover this seemingly mundane explanation. As I came to understand, however, SW0138 was far more connected to all of these events than any of us could have guessed. My investigation determined that while the Black Swan cult wasn't directly connected to any of the known dark powers, they had grown in power and influence to a point where they couldn't have been left to local authorities alone to clean up. During our operations to eradicate these heretics, we came into contact with SW0138-1, who eluded all of our attempts at capture, but did prove to be a valuable resource of information. It was through a long set of conversations with this entity that I became aware of the impending return of the Orc Space Hulk Ekrik's Tears, a prophecy I originally completely discounted, until the Space Hulk did in fact arrive back in the Hyperion system. It was only later, during our mopping up operations, that it became clear that many of the Black Swan cultists had been in contact with SW0138, known as the Warp Whisperer, for months.
Special Addendum High Savant Investigation Notation.
I have tracked down and catalogued over 102 sightings of SW0138 in the preceding solar decade. In each case, these sightings preceded a warp anomaly directly. In over 88% of these cases, some natural or civic disaster followed. This matter will require much more of my research over the coming months. Expect a follow-up report, Inquisitor.
End log Cogitator Net 343.99.M41. Inquisitorial Archive Segmentum Obscurus Dunwich Sub Vox Cogitator Net Access Terminated.
I went a little bit lighter this time on the Ordo Obscurus to leave it a little bit more open. We are definitely hoping that some of our listeners, especially those of you guys who have written stories for us before and are super into this stuff, this is one. If you want to grab it and expand it, let us know. We will definitely share it up. And obviously Discord, Patreon, there's a bunch of ways to get in contact with us that we'll cover later.
I think you can make some cool cultists and the actual models using Warcry stuff.
Oh, yeah.
Well, I had that thought. And then the other thought that I had at the Black Swan cult was directly from the movie Black Swan, as Natalie Portman kind of starts to lose her mind and she like feels that she's growing feathers and wings and everything. And that's literally like what happens to these cultists. That's how the stigmata of the Mothman, the Warp's Whisperer, presents itself on their bodies. So I was like, oh, I can play with that.
That's cool.
We kind of want a lot like SCP. We kind of would like to see those of you guys who listen and those of you guys who are part of our community kind of help us expand the Lorus Obscurus, Ordo Obscurus files. We've got some rules on how to write them and all of that, which you can find in our Discord. And if you guys expand one of the ones that we've already written or write one for us yourselves, we will totally read it on the show. Trying to do some voices.
Yeah, come up with character. If you want us to try to voice out a character for one of them, just put a little hint to what do you think it would be or something. So that way, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
At some point, Kevin's gonna have to do the Ukrainian / Russian, the Eastern Bloc commissar who's doing like a side report and addendum.
It is ugly planet. Bug planet. A planet inhospitable to Imperial Guard. Yet here we are, dying man for man with these insect scum.
Love it. Well, as
At
we
least
mentioned,
insect scum, not decadent capitalist.
His worst enemy, capital.
And speaking of insect scum, before we jump into our coverage on all things Mothman, probably one of my favorite cryptids, Chuck, you said you had an ongoing ghost story. Is this something related to your house, or is this no? This is an experience that happened to Rugen, isn't it?
Well, let's just say Rugen moved to a new place up in a mountainous area.
Perfect.
And we work together, so he makes me lunch, I drive him home. So it's a rural area, and it's paved, but
banjo music, rural?
Not quite. But
okay.
It's one of those places where most neighbors keep to themselves. And as you go up the paved road before you get to his place, there's a dirt road that goes off the other direction. And apparently people live out that way. So it was near sunset, and I was like, dude, let's go check it out. And Matt's like, okay. So we turned down the road. Not very far down it, he got very uneasy and felt some palpitations in his chest. He told me to turn around. So I turn around, and as we're driving back out, we notice there's oddly stacked rocks on the embankment.
Like cairns? Like when people do like the rock stacking thing on like hiking trails?
No, it's in the hill. It's like rocks that somebody stacked in the hill. Weeds have grown in it and everything. As soon as we drove past that, Rugen goes, man, I feel a lot better. A few days later, we're driving along that same road. All of a sudden now there's a boulder on one side of the road. It looks like somehow somebody chipped the top of the boulder off and put it on the other side of the road. And it wasn't before. And it wasn't there before, but it's there now after we drove down that way.
Yeah, that's a little creepy.
So I'm not quite sure if this would be the same area, but I'm almost positive I've never told this story. I used to maybe it is the same area. So I used to deliver I used to have a job delivering newspapers. I know newspapers so passe. But newspapers were a thing that used to exist, and they used to be in places. And I delivered newspapers with a buddy of mine. We would get into either his CRX or my CRX, and we would drive the back roads of pretty much the entire like northern San Diego County, almost Riverside County area, delivering newspapers to these really, really, really rural like houses and communities.
And you're talking like Temecula and like that back end, like back by the reservation.
Essentially, yeah, basically. Yeah. Like we started the warehouse that we picked everything up in was in like northern Fallbrook, and then we just like essentially went north.
Oh, northern Fallbrook. I was thinking the like way out back behind Vista, almost in San Marcos. They've got it, but that's a post office, not a newspaper.
Yeah, this was just like it was North County Times, which I don't even think exists anymore. It was back in the day.
That
we're delivering these newspapers, and like if you've ever worked a newspaper delivery route, you deliver newspapers at like 3 or 4 in the morning. You pick up newspapers at like 1:30. You drive to the area that your route is in, and then you deliver papers, and you get paid a set amount of money. So if you deliver the papers in your route in like 50 minutes, the amount of money that you make per hour is really good. And that's what we did. We went and delivered newspapers really early in the morning, and then we did a couple of other odd jobs, and then basically like sold weed to get by for the rest of the time. This is like allegedly. This is like early college. This is before I became a little bit more calmed down and started doing other work more seriously. But we're out there delivering papers. We're going through these back roads, and like all of it's literally, you're in the middle of nowhere. There are these back roads. There's almost no streetlights and all of that. We came around a turn. I think he was driving, and it was really foggy because it gets really foggy a lot in that area. And we came around a turn, and our headlights hit a body, like a puddle of water that was stretching across the street. And because of that, the fog on the other side lit up like bright white. And in that moment where the fog lit up super bright light and the reflection, we both saw like 15 people standing in the middle of the road facing us.
Oh, that's creepy as fuck.
And he slammed on the brakes, like very obviously. So we slam on the brakes.
Oh, yeah.
We come to a stop in the puddle of water. Headlights are still at this point now directly illuminating the fog. And there are still these people standing in front of us. And as we watch, they like slowly fade away as if they're backing up and getting further away. So being that, we're freaked out, adrenaline's going high, but it's also our job and a bunch of other things, our two dumbasses get out of the car to see if these people need help. So we walk forward, and we've got our flashlights out, and we're calling out and being like, hey, we didn't mean to like scare you or whatever. Like, are we crossing a ranch? Like, are we allowed to be here? This is just a road that we drive every night. We've never encountered it. We're doing that whole like, we're freaked out and mad, but also worried that we may have almost hurt somebody. Like whatever that weird intersection of like feelings is. We get about 15 feet up the embankment into the fog on the road. And the car behind us goes from blaring heavy metal music with all the lights on to being completely dead. Like alien invasion or alien abduction levels of just power cuttage.
Dude, so you're giving me goosebumps. Just like, I'm like imagining that. Like, fuck. I would be.
Oh, yeah. So we book it back to the car. And as we're booking it back to the car, both of our flashlights die.
Oh my God.
Like you couldn't have scripted that.
Yeah. It was literally that moment. So we get in the car, we slam the doors, we lock everything. Old Honda CRXs. It was like a 1988 or 1989 Honda CRX. So it's a hatchback. Everything has mechanical locks. There's nothing like electronic to the lock. So we slam the doors, lock the car, windows up. He starts trying to turn the engine over. I think we were stuck out there for about 45 minutes.
Oh my God.
And this was in an era where like everybody had a Nokia brick phone. So we had a phone, but we were not in I highly doubt this area over by the res, Kevin, like kind of over signal. By like Pachanga. Yeah. I doubt it even has signal now. I would be
I ride my bike out there
surprised
now
if
and then.
now.
It probably does not.
Yeah.
And
Certain
so those,
areas will, and certain areas
those-
won't. Like you could go
those
around a
people-
corner and lose signal.
those people, so you're telling me they just disappeared?
The 100%, there were no people out there.
Oh my god.
Even when we got the
Ooh.
car to start, like 30 minutes later, by opening the hood and messing, like doing all the things you do when your car isn't starting.
Jiggling the wire on the terminal.
Yeah, we finally got everything on, and lights came back on, and we drove up into the area, and we did not encounter a house. Normally, we bombed through, and this is kind of on us for being dumb, like young adults / teenagers. We normally bombed through this area doing like 90 miles an hour because both of our CRXs were kind of tweaked to do rally stuff. If you guys have heard me talk about rolling a CRX 9 times, it was that era of my life. It wasn't.
The
I rolled
fact
my
that you
CRX,
rolled a
not
CRX
his
and
CRX.
didn't die is
Roll
pretty
cage.
impressive, though. Hey,
Roll cage.
they matter. Put that out for our listeners. I know we're not a motorsports podcast or anything,
Yeah.
but I'm a first generation Braptivist, and
Yep.
I believe in roll cages.
Yeah, roll cage, 5-point racing harness. There are reasons I survived. There are reasons the car survived to do it 9 more times. I didn't roll the car 9 times. I rolled the car, 9 times.
that is a different.
Yeah.
Damn.
So new wheels, new engine. Yeah, we were pretty big gearheads late high school. We did a lot of dumb like rally racing stuff. I actually kind of wanted to do that for a while. I thought that would be a really cool job.
Oh yeah, I would have loved to do that, but none of my friends were into it.
Yeah, and then the United States government taught me how to like defensively, tactically drive, which only made all of my desire to do dumb shit in cars more.
Oh boy.
But anyway, yeah, so that's my weird. And Chuck, your story reminded me of the disappearing people. And I have a feeling you guys were kind of in the same area. I might be wrong.
Further south. Near another casino and another res, but yeah.
Yeah. I had a friend who lived way up on a hill. She was a super religious like family and everything. She lived way up on a hill off of Castle Rock, which is like the other side of Gopher Canyon. There's this mountain that's just alone, and there's a house on top of that mountain, and she lived in that house.
Oh, you know what's crazy is my wife and I drove on the 15, and you can see that house from the 15, and we were like, man, if the apocalypse ever happens, sorry, but I'm taking that house.
Yep. So they are, I don't know if they still own it or still live there, but they are ultra religious. And there are a couple of times that I went up there that like my car randomly died and I had to like coast down the hill and just weird. There's some transition between the freeway essentially and the top of that mountain where like weird electrical shit would happen in cars too. Nothing as extreme as this. It was usually like, I think I'm only drawing connections in retrospect. Like during the time I was just like, oh, right, of course I have a shitty car that I break all the time. But now that I think about it, it happened way too often.
That's weird. It always happened when I drove by a church.
Yeah. Her family was pretty cool. She and I got relatively close. And I honestly think one of the only reasons that our relationship didn't go anywhere is I was already super witchy at the time, and there was no way I was going to conform to like New Age Protestantism. It was not going to happen. Southern Baptism was not in my future. But they had like 25 chinchillas. That's the other thing I remember about their house.
A lot of chinchillas.
Fucking chinchillas, right? I mean, like, who knew? And chinchillas are the ninjas of the natural world. I swear to God. They have so much fucking energy. God, they're I wonder if Pikachu is based on a chinchilla. I'm putting that out there.
I think it's based on a pika.
Is that a chinchilla in Japanese?
It's like a little marmot thing.
No, I think it's like some kind of
marmot-like little chunky rodent.
Because I remember like seeing an interview with the guide. Like he based them all off of animals.
Mm-hmm.
That makes sense.
The original ones. Like
it's called a pika?
Not the trash bag. Yeah, pika. Pika. Yeah, look at the little guy. Like, how cute is that?
Holy shit, that's fucking adorable. I need one of those.
Look at him.
Are they like the size of a rabbit?
Jesus, no. It looks like a corgi as a rabbit.
It does look like a corgi rabbit.
You know
like
probably
rodent creatures, but oh my god, they're cute.
It's adorable. I want 10.
You know what probably swoops
Like-
down and eats things like that? The Mothman.
Every bird.
I was going to say all the hawks that live in our backyard. The number of times
I like
go
how you
out,
switch back to Mothman. Mothman swoops down
he's
and
good.
eats them.
He's good sometimes at redirecting us when we get off track. The number of times, especially this time of year, that I go outside and I have to I'm walking the dogs and I have to stop and bring the dogs back inside and then go outside with a bag to collect what's left of rodents is,
Yeah.
we're on a half acre. So birds treat our yard like a buffet.
Oh, I'm sure.
All
But
right.
at the same time, you also probably don't have rodent problems.
We don't. We do have lots of shrews. And shrews are not really this is the only place that I've really encountered lots of shrews. Shrews and voles
Are
everywhere.
shrews like something between a mole rat and a weasel?
No, they're kind of like weird mice.
Okay. On that vein, all those grubs that I was pulling out of my garden, I've pulled a pile like that out every day since I posted that picture.
And you continued to quote Starship Troopers, I hope.
Oh, I did. But now I have made peace offerings with the crows.
There you go.
Oh.
They now know me. I go outside and I hold up a cup full of them, and then I dump
There
it
you
on
go.
the ground. And as I hold up the cup, they all come swooping in and landing around.
Our neighbors have chickens, and every time I have an insect problem, I'm like, you can just let them come into my yard.
You want just let them run around for a little while.
Just let them eat all the crickets. All right.
Yeah.
So speaking of creepy crawlies and things that go bumpish in the night,
Flip
Our
flap in the
main-
night.
our main man of the evening is the Mothman. You can't have a conversation about cryptids without bringing up a list of the heavy hitters, the cream of the crop, the top contenders. We already did a short series on Bigfoot, tying the tales of Sasquatch, Yeti, and Skunk Ape later into our coverage of the missing 411 of the United States National Park System. We also covered the Jersey Devil, at least in brief, when we talked about the haunted pine barrens of New Jersey and Pennsylvania. Even the Chupacabra and the Loch Ness Monster, or creatures like Nessie, have been mentioned a few times, at least in passing in past Lorus Obscurus episodes. But it's far past time that we look at one of the other top dogs of the cryptid world, arguably the most famous, although some on this podcast would contest that it's between him and Bigfoot. And he's not here tonight, but I'm positive that Beast would argue with me as to who holds the number one spot.
I think
However-
Nessie's up there, though.
Nessie's
Everybody
for sure
knows
up
about
there.
Nessie.
Here's my reason. In terms of media created, Mothman has a deep hold on folklore of the United States, including a 2002 movie, The Mothman Prophecies, which starred Richard Gere, Laura Linney, and Will Patton. And he gets his own annual festival every year in Point Pleasant. And as to where Nessie and Bigfoot have their own movies, they're not movies that you attach names to.
But Nessie has a place, and I've been.
Nessie
The whole
also,
town is all about Nessie all the time.
well, and that's actually Point Pleasant in
West Virginia.
West Virginia. It's the exact
Oh,
same thing. Everything
okay.
is Mothman all the time. There
It
is
just
a
isn't
12
named
foot.
like Mothman. So
That's where you
it's
get
harder
those
to
I
get
sucked
that from
Mothman's
the-
dick shirts.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's a 12 foot
I thought that was just an
Mothman
Amazon
statue
Mhm. The
outside
big
of
brass
City Hall.
Mothman.
What?
Yep.
That's cool.
Yes. I'll bring up a picture.
Okay. I mean, then I'd say all three are pretty much the trifecta of big hitters.
Nessie is also an interesting one because, and I don't know if you guys know this, but in our area we have Haji, in the area that I'm from, that you guys still live near, we have Haji and Lake Hodges, which is basically just Nessie. Any
Yeah.
body of water, the lake name, and then take the lake name and add E at the end of it, and you've got a lake monster.
Yeah.
We even have a lake monster here in the Midwest that's in the Raccoon River. I can't remember it. It's probably Racky. I can't remember its name, but the Raccoon River has a lake, quote unquote, lake monster. So it's interesting. We also in Iowa have a Mothman-like creature that we will probably talk about in a future episode.
Ah.
Yeah,
Who
I was-
or what?
I was going to ask, are there other similar Mothman creatures to help push Mothman being very top crypto?
There are a lot of Mothman style critters that are around, but one of the things that makes Mothman the top cryptid, and he does top a lot of the lists, is that there is one Mothman. Like Sasquatch, there are like 70 different ones. There's like 12 different species. Nessie,
Sasquatch and Bigfoot is like a collective.
Yeah. Nessie is a named lake monster, but there are a lot of different lake monsters that are all kind of described as being plesiosaurs. Mothman is kind of a singular thing.
It's like Ronald McDonald.
The Mothman. Yeah, right.
Like back in the
like, hamburger. What is it? Hamburger?
80s, 70s, they had like several regional Ronald McDonalds. So there'd be like the Pacific Northwest one and the East Coast one. But then they were like, look, there's inconsistencies in the height, in the mannerisms. We're just doing one guy and we're flying him around everywhere.
So you can actually find those benches. I don't know if you guys remember the benches that Ronald McDonald was like
McDonald's benches that have Ronald on them. Yeah.
You can find them in like old, like, what are they called? Like salvage yards. And they are fucking freaky.
Yeah, they're really creepy looking.
Abandoned Ronald McDonald benches are like peak horror.
Yeah,
they're awesome.
That's so spooky dookie.
Right? All right. But who or what is the Mothman? So the Mothman is a humanoid creature seen in the Point Pleasant area, Mason County, West Virginia, between November 16th, 1966 and December 15th, 1967. The first report was published in the Point Pleasant Register, a local newspaper, on November 16th, 1966. And this is probably one of my favorite titles I have ever read. Couples see man-sized bird, creature, something. Then the national press picked up the story, and from here is basically how we got the legend to spread all over the United States. Skeptics have pointed out that these original sightings have a lot in common with large birds, from large owls to possibly a sighting of the sandhill crane or other herons. We'll talk about the sandhill crane in a little bit, what it looks like. However, keep in mind that this would be out of season for these animals, and most would have already migrated well before this. We're talking like mid-October. The area that Point Pleasant is in is right across the river from Ohio. Like the Silver Bridge, the bridge that is known for collapsing after the Mothman sightings, bridges West Virginia and Ohio. So this is not a warm area.
Okay.
Gary Baker, who is a well-known writer on the subject of UFOs and the paranormal, published The Silver Bridge in 1970, which is still considered to be one of the best sources of the original sightings. Baker is also known as the first researcher on the scene of both the Flatwoods Monster and the Mothman cases. He is known for his eloquent writing style and came to national attention for his They Knew Too Much About Flying Saucers, which set the standard for reports on the infamous Men in Black. And don't worry, guys, Men in Black and Black-Eyed Children will be the subject of future Lorus Obscurus episodes coming in 2014. We are getting real close to jumping the line into ufologist territory.
You just said 2014.
Are we going back in time to 2014? Yeah.
Did I say 2014? Yeah, this podcast is a time traveler. 2024. I am a man in black. I have too much hair, but anyway.
I can't wait to listen to more of my favorite bands, the Lumineers and Monsters of Men.
You know, as much as you guys are making fun of me, Blink-182 just released a new song. 30 Seconds to Mars just released a new song. Gerard Way is talking about releasing a new song. 2011 is a year away, guys.
Actually, what's funny is on that same vein, Nero just dropped a new song.
Oh, damn. Okay.
It all comes in waves.
It's crazy.
In the novel, in the book, not the novel, in the book, The Silver Bridge, Baker explores the murky physiological depths of life in the Ohio Valley and West Virginia during the late 1960s. So part of the book covers just how bleak and how weird life was in this area. This is kind of one of those areas. Like we mentioned the Ozarks and we've mentioned the Appalachians because we're going to cover them here real soon. Those are both also just really weird areas. They're areas with a lot of good old boys isn't really the right word to describe it, but essentially I don't know the word I'm looking for, but like old hill folk.
Yeah.
Just these really old embedded populations of people who
Was
have
it
big
valley
connections. Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. Hill and valley people.
Yeah.
So he explores this time period connection to the original Mothman sightings, even as he attempted to get inside the Mothman's head and let us know what his motivations may have been. And there's a lot of talk around the motivations of the Mothman. The Mothman was described as being between 7 and 15 feet tall, with bat-like wings spanning over 10 feet. Its eyes glowed red and were set low and wide. The top of its head seemed to be almost in line with its shoulders, with those large eyes being set about shoulder length apart. So in a lot of the artwork that you'll find, he kind of has a head, but in a lot of the original descriptions, he kind of had, what's the character? It was an animated character that had it was a Looney Tune. He had no head. Like he basically, his shoulders just went straight across and he had 2 eyes and a mouth in it.
I got him up on my, the thing.
Not Tasmanian Devil, but
no, the orange
you know
one.
what I'm talking about.
Yeah, the orange one. He has the sneakers. Yeah, I actually have a Beanie Baby of him up there.
That's awesome. But that guy, if you picture that guy in your head, like there's no head. It's just shoulders. The top of its head seemed to be almost in line with its shoulders, with the large eyes being set about shoulder length apart. I already mentioned that. Its body was muscular, although incredibly slender. And it was covered in black, or it is covered in black or very dark brown gray mixture of scales and feathers. To get back to that sandhill crane thing, it's also about as tall as a human, with a 7-foot wingspan, and it features large circles of reddish coloring around its eyes. However, not only, as I mentioned earlier, would this bird being in this area be out of season when it was seen, but the sandbill crane is also not normal to that region at all.
Okay.
It doesn't fly through the area. It doesn't live in the area. But, having a skeptical mind on these things is always safe, but I kind of feel that it sometimes takes a little bit of the magic out of it. Speaking of the magic out of it, the Mothman made it to magic, didn't he? Isn't that a thing that's happening right now?
Yeah. Well, by way of Fallout 76, so they're doing all these like universes beyond. So they're pulling in a lot of different properties, because Hasbro and everything, right? They have Transformers, they have Jurassic Park, they just did Lord of the Rings, but Mothman is now a Magic the Gathering card. It's called like the Wise Mothman or something like that. But that Universes Beyond collab is coming out. Yeah. So like in the game, right, he's this kind of benevolent little guy that gives you stuff. But I think now there's like Mothmans that hurt you and Mothmans that help you. I don't know. My partner played it. He was telling me about this. But
I actually completely forgot it that Fallout 76 was like located in the West Virginia area until you said, I'm like, oh, that's right.
Mm-hmm.
So do you know
actually, when you were talking about how it's an old area, I was running the lyrics. I was like, at some point in the West Virginia song, he says, the land is old here, older than the trees.
Yes.
Yeah. And like that's a thing. That's a good way to describe that. And like that's why it's so weird. Like it's unique in that way. Like that's just an old mountain range.
That's a very old part of the world. So in the Mothman card, in the Mothman Magic card, do you know anything about? So you said that so the card gives you stuff, and there's others that hurt you, or was that the game?
Just to show us, just type in like game. MTG Fallout Mothman, and you'll see what the card does. I don't have it memorized off the top of my head.
You're a magic person, man.
I know. I can't. There's hundreds of cards. 10 years ago, it was much easier. Yeah, you got the Wise Mothman. He's the Sultai colors. Whenever he enters the battlefield or attacks, so they're doing something with the radiation, with the rad. And then milled means when you're taking cards off the top of your deck and throwing them in your graveyard. So he's giving you counters, and he's giving you, like, punching up your creatures and giving you counters. So he's doing fun stuff.
The artwork on it's really cool too, because it looks like a moth owl.
Yeah.
Which I've never really seen. Like normal, like stereotypical Mothman art is either owl or moth mixed with a man. I've never seen moth owl man art. That's kind of cool.
Yeah, I like it. They really honored all the interpretations of the Mothman.
Super cool. So the Mothman is believed to be either a harbinger of doom or disaster, although some also see it more as a force meaning to warn of impending doom. And that would kind of get to what you were saying, the way that he's being used. He's either beneficial or he hurts you. It's interesting how they're playing with all of it.
Yeah.
Its appearance in Point Pleasant is said to have been a warning of the impending collapse of the Silver Bridge, which connects West Virginia and Ohio. On December 15th, 1967, the last day the Mothman was reportedly seen in the area, the bridge collapsed during rush hour traffic, killing 46 people, making it one of the deadliest bridge disasters in U.S. history. Oh. And to make it like even more tragic, these were people on the bridge, like with Christmas presents, and a lot of the firsthand accounts are like presents floating on the water as people are drowning because they're stuck in their cars.
Oh, that's horrible.
It was a really, really bad disaster. Ever since the Mothman has been associated with all sorts of other disasters, including, I would like to say, but not limited to, the bombing of residential apartment blocks in Russia in 1999, the 9/11 attacks, and the Fukushima nuclear disaster. These are all points where the Mothman was spied or spotted within a week or two. There was a flap or a cluster of sightings right before it happened. And a flap is what they call a cluster of UFO sightings, and the Mothman is very associated with UFO activity.
Were the sightings near those places, or just a lot in Point Pleasant?
The Mothman was sighted in those places. So the Mothman was sighted in Russia before these bombings. He was sighted in New York by people before 9/11, and he was seen in Japan right before the Fukushima nuclear disaster. And the list really goes on. Like, I could have spent a long time talking about this. I just picked things in a couple of different, like, major things in a couple of different areas that we all know about.
So just question, were the sightings reported prior to the event?
Yes.
Or post?
Oh.
Yeah. Well, yeah.
Because it changes perspective a little bit.
Right.
Yes, in air quotes.
Okay. They're claiming that they were, but
they're claiming that they were.
It's hard to prove that they weren't post.
We have a tendency in like 2023 to very much look at things as like we get instantaneous news coverage and we get instantaneous information. And it's weird and alien to think that during Fukushima, which was only in 2011, 2012, it wasn't like that. But it wasn't. It wasn't quite that instantaneous yet. The interesting thing about the residential apartment block attacks in Russia in 1999 is, do you guys know how part of it was thwarted?
No.
This is a really weird random fact that I know. And it wasn't the one that made the news. It was one of the other ones. But because
that was the movie theater. That's the one that ended up on the news.
Right. One of the people who had been radicalized, this gal who had been radicalized, was going to her bomb site, and she received a phone call on the phone that was linked to the bombs. That was a happy birthday message, and she forgot and answered the phone, and the bomb went off when she was essentially in an area that like wasn't destructive. So she like blew up in the middle of a field alone.
That's crazy.
Yeah, because somebody called her to give her like a happy birthday message, and she, for whatever reason, forgot and answered her phone.
Maybe the Mothman called trying to save people.
Maybe. And that could also be an urban legend. I've just heard that reported a bunch, and I thought it was kind of an interesting like little story. So anyway, it's currently believed that the Mothman lurks in the Midwest and in the western regions of New England, returning to Point Pleasant quite often, waiting to unleash some other disaster or terror on those that cross it. And there are different sightings. I can't remember what we call the Mothman that's seen in central Iowa, but there is a Mothman-like figure, which could also be a Thunderbird. We'll talk about Thunderbirds at some point. Thunderbirds are basically like giant, like pterodactyls, essentially, that can call lightning and thunder with their wings. They're a Native American legend. But We have a Thunderbird / Mothman that haunts one of the mining towns that is abandoned in central Iowa that had a bunch of disasters happen around it in like, I want to say the late 1970s, late 1980s, around there. He's very, very hard to find information on, though, because it's one of those, like, there's 2 news reports and like a 15-second destination discovery blip. Yeah. Tracking down a lot of these stories that aren't super famous is really hard, and I love doing it, but it's literally like, if you've ever seen one of those movies where the mom or the dad becomes really concerned because their kid is seeing ghosts, and then they go and they're like, I need to see all the micro features on this set of... That's literally what looking up some of this stuff is, because no one's put it online. Like, you literally have to go to, like, I don't know, Left Foot, Iowa, and then go to the library and then ask the librarian where like the news reports from 1960 are, and you have to read all of them to find this shit. I'd love that to be my job. Please listen to our podcast, Patreon us, and let me do weird research for the rest of my life. Or just buy us coffee. That works too.
Please.
All right, guys. So do you want to get into the sightings of Mothman and, of course, Indrid Cold?
Let's do it.
Yeah, because I'm going to have some questions and some theories behind these people in the 60s.
Yep.
Chuck's already like, these guys are smoking the good ganj.
Oh, yeah.
On November 15th, 1966, 2 couples reported their sightings of the Mothman to Point Pleasant police. Roger and Linda Scarberry and Steve and Mary Mellett reported that they had seen a large black creature whose eyes glowed red while out driving. They had been out in the sticks on the land of an old TNT factory and munitions plant. And if you subscribe to us on Patreon, we do a video version of the podcast, and I actually have a picture of this TNT factory and munitions plant that was taken just about a year ago up on screen right now. This is the actual place.
That's the actual like door.
Yeah, this is the door to the facility.
Yep.
It's crazy. It just looks like a random ass like bunker.
Oh,
yep.
I've watched a whole show on this, and it's pretty. When they're there, it's pretty intense. Yeah.
So this area had since World War II, had since become a mixture between kind of like a lover's lane and a place that kids went out to throw rocks at old buildings.
Okay.
I feel like you guys should all know what those are. Teenagers go there to neck. Teenagers that don't have girlfriends go there to throw rocks through glass windows.
Yep.
Or at metal because it goes bang when you hit it with a rock. Yeah,
exactly.
Been there, done that. Both of those.
Linda Scarberry described it as a slender, muscular man of about 7 feet tall, but because of its hypnotic red eyes, she was unable to determine race or any other features. The encounter spooked the couples, and they sped away from the site, with the creature flying after their car while it unleashed a terrible screeching drone. It gave up its pursuit at the city limits of Point Pleasant, but over the next several days, more sightings came in, and the police developed a picture closer to what we now know as what the Mothman looks like nowadays. Now, I did a little bit more research. When they say sped away, picture 1966 cars. Even when you think about the bridge collapse, bridges, this bridge had been built before cars were really a thing.
Okay.
That's really, really important to note. And cars at this point in the 1960s.
Yeah, a lot of those covered bridges are they're from the wagon era.
Yeah. And cars at this point were incredibly heavy. So when it comes to the bridge, think of rush hour traffic, bumper to bumper rush hour traffic during the holiday. So you've just jam-packed way too much weight onto the bridge, and the bridge collapsed. It was just one of those things of failing infrastructure. Right.
Big old family wagons. Yeah.
Yeah. Like Chevys and stuff. And when it comes to this pair of couples speeding away from the TNT factory, we think speeding away and we're like, oh yeah, they're in one of them Teslas. They get that like 2.8 inches to 90 miles an hour, or 2.8 seconds to 90 miles an hour. And all that stuff. This was probably like a 1955 Chevy Nova that got to 0 to 60 in
12
seconds. 5 minutes. Yeah.
Down
governor at 60. Yeah.
Yep. Downshifted from 3 on the tree down to 2nd and then took off.
Yep.
Yeah.
Exactly.
if you're more skeptically minded and you think about owls, which are some of the slowest birds of prey, they're capable of flying at a relatively decent clip. They're not fast, but they're flying faster than we can run. So you're still talking about an animal that can do like 35 miles an hour.
And
so
it's silent.
So speeding on a curvy road in the middle of nowhere could be 30 miles an hour, like very realistically.
Oh yeah, because they're probably only their realistic speed was between 20 and 30 miles an hour, because that car's not going around a country road corner at 30 miles an hour.
And absolutely, you're slowing down and everything.
Yeah.
So
an owl would easily outpace them.
Yeah. And like, again, how owls make weird noises and they screech. So just from the skeptical side of things, I want to present both cases, even though I like to believe that the Mothman is completely possible. I also admit that the skepticism makes a lot of sense. So
I really want there to be UFOs, but I fully acknowledge that you can see satellites when they catch the light.
It's that it's that I want to believe poster in Fox Mulder's office.
Yes.
I want to believe.
Exactly.
I don't really, but I want to.
I'm a man of science, but I want to believe.
Yes, exactly.
So 2 firefighters reported something closer to a very large bird with glowing red eyes. And again, this would be more on the thunderbird size. So think of like just an absolutely enormous bat-winged bird with red eyes. Then contractor Newell Partridge reported that he had shown his flashlight on a weird creature in his fields, and its eyes glowed red like bike reflectors. And that was something that was reported a lot, that when headlights caught it, or when people went outside and shined a flashlight at it, that like hexagonal, multifaceted reflection came back. And again, like we've kind of seen that, like even in the Magic the Gathering card art, that's sort of the way that the eyes are done. Additionally, Partridge blamed a buzzing sound that came from his TV, even when it was off, and the disappearance of his German Shepherd on the creature. The Mothman has been connected to UFO sightings since almost the beginning, and also has made a connection to old military storage sites. So not only the TNT munitions factory we talked about earlier, but other ones as well. All told, somewhere close to 100 people made reports about the creature between 1966 and 1967. This would all be in Point Pleasant. And it's assumed that many more people probably had encounters and just never came forward. One of the things that's very, very common in UFO cases, very, very common in paranormal creature sightings and cryptid sightings and all sorts of wiggity shit, is if there's like 2 reports, there's like 100 people who didn't say anything. If there's 100 reports, take that number out, essentially. Like they kind of always, at least the paranormal investigators always assume that there's much more stories, and the police do too. The police roll their eyes as to where the paranormal investigators rub their hands together like they're little flies. You know when the flies do that thing where they rub their front feet together like they're planning something? And you're like, you conniving little fuck, what are you planning on doing? And the fly's like, eating poo, because that's the only thing it can think of.
And then landing on your face.
and then giving you kisses. I think we killed Marky.
Collectively, we all just like kept that going. Now you just can't hold it together.
So as an aside, it was also reported that many of these reports are fragmentary and even downright childish. So out of the 100 that we know, with only a few dozen containing enough details to seem plausible, folklorist Jan Harold Buravand notes similarities between Mothman and much older tales of folklore that came over from Europe or other places, suggesting that something actually did scare several people and that their real experiences became interwoven with these folk tales and these legends that they knew as they had time to kind of think about it before they made the report. Burvond also points out that a lot of these reports came from teenagers who were otherwise occupied at night in parked cars.
That right there.
So, yeah, lots of necking and hands down, over the pants, over the shirt activity, or over the pants, under the shirt, whatever the hell they said in the 1960s.
So
lots of people getting pinned. Mothman, yeah.
Mothman, has there ever been like a mangling? You know what I mean? Like
somebody actually been attacked by it?
Right. There
are a couple of reports of people who do have like talon wounds. And in a lot of cases, there was always like a very realistic, like, oh, well, this looks really bad, and obviously like you pissed something off, but we can tell by looking at it that you like you pissed off the greater western barn owl. Like it was almost always one of those things.
Mhm.
Like they measure the talon wounds and all that stuff. However, there were several cars that the roofs were damaged that they didn't have explanations for, at least at the time.
That's because they drove off the road
Bears.
too fast, and those big old trees screwed the roof up.
Just gnarled.
Yeah, that's totally plausible. Also,
Goddamn
especially if it was
Mothman.
like a convertible and it just like
How-
tore.
How am I gonna tell my dad that I
was
just
the Mothman, Dad.
screwed up his
Then I
freaking
fucked
car
up his brand new car. Yep.
Mhm.
and not
Listen.
tell him the girlfriend was with me?
Listen, if I wanted to CSI this, we would be watching. No, I'm kidding.
So-
Why am I in this podcast with one person who wants to believe just like me and at least 2 Gil Grissom's? Emmy, I'm not sure where you fall yet.
We'll find out.
Oh, I want to believe. I'm just saying.
No, I get you. It's totally.
I feel
that
like
thing.
it's like an old guy with like a helmet with like big red goggles and a paraglider, and he's just fucking
Right.
with kids that are
He's just
that are
fucking
Yeah.
with the kids because he
Just
knows
got
they
a
all are making
cosplay
out.
going.
right.
Right.
he's
Right.
just the first
Like
cosplayer.
it's probably
Leave
cold,
room
so
for
he wears
Jesus,
like
kids.
right, yeah. Christ is king. He like,
He's got-
but it sounds like a screech because he's going so
Right.
fast.
Yep.
What
and
was
he's just
that?
got NVGs or some shit
And all
on.
you hear is
that middle school dancing rule where you have to keep a balloon between you, and when you would ask why, they'd be like, "That's where Jesus is in the dance." That's all
That's
I can think
right.
of, Emmy. It's your fault. It's your fault. You just brought back memories from parochial school. Thank you.
Oh man, so many memories.
Parents that are listening right now, if you want your kids to turn out like me, send them to parochial school. A bunch of parents just unenrolled their children from parochial school.
what's that? What's parochial school?
like Catholic Academy or Christian school,
I was gonna say,
private
isn't it
school.
like a pierogi? Isn't that something you eat?
That
A
food?
pierogi
not like
is a
not like
Polish potato.
pierogies.
A parochial school is a private,
potato
usually
school,
religious.
obviously.
They
Chuck.
teach you how to
love
peel
pierogies.
potatoes. Is that what was going
They
on?
do.
No.
They do. 100. That is a thing in parochial school. Maybe there's a lot more to do with pierogies than I realized.
Yeah, that's what you do if you get caught kissing.
Oh
You gotta
yeah,
go peel
let's
all
talk
the
about
potatoes.
this creepy dude.
This
So
is the guy that's
no-
flying around in goggles and a paraglider,
Right.
yelling at kids about Jesus.
Yeah,
No
it's all
tale
about
of
purity
the-
culture.
No Tale of the Mothman would be complete without bringing up Indrid Cold, also known as the Grinning Man. Probably the biggest UFO/Mothman link comes from this humanoid entity, whom also has a possible connection to the Men in Black. When he was first encountered, he appeared to be over 6 foot tall, wearing a green reflective suit with a black belt. He was described as having small beady eyes that were set far apart, no nose, no ears, and no hair. The second
fuck?
time he was encountered, yeah, right? It was in the blue reflective suit, but he appeared with much more human-like facial features, sporting slick back black hair. He also had a nice tan, although he wasn't too dark, and he wore a coat over his suit. For the record, I don't believe that these reports mean like a Mylar spacesuit or something that you would see on an alien. I'm pretty sure, having read a couple of the snippets, that they mean more like a weirdly reflective business suit. Like,
Interesting.
think of
It's got a
you're
sheen
gonna
on it.
like the way you look, and then there's an opalescent sheen
Yeah.
to it.
Yeah, it's got a little sheen
Some
to it.
cyberpunk's nonsense.
I'm gonna walk into the men's warehouse one day and be like, "Take me to the Indrid Cold section, please," and buy the most obscene shiny suit I can.
I can see like an Adidas X Mothman collab where they make like a tracksuit for this guy.
And then they get Jonathan Davis to wear it in a music
Oh.
video.
Yes.
It's perfect. I'm picturing it now.
But Adidas, Men's Warehouse, Korn, or what was the other one you said? If any of you would like to sponsor the website, the podcast, you can reach us at That'll be the weirdest poll. Literally, our first sponsor is Jonathan Davis. I'd be like, "What happened? What happened?"
How did we get here?
I guess when you shoot for Henry Cavill, sometimes you land in the corn. You know.
Mm-hmm.
Come on, guys, that was funnier than y'all treated it.
That
Marky's
was pretty
laughing,
good.
but he's doing it silently.
I'm sorry.
So Indrid Cold was first encountered on October 16th, 1966 by Martin Muvow and Haim Yachis in New Jersey. They were walking down 4th Street when these two young boys spotted the surreal figure standing and leaning against a fence post. They reported that he was in a green metallic suit and that his face was split by an ever-present and creepy-ass grin. Honestly, a lot of the reports of this immediately made me think of G-Man from Half-Life, the original Half-Life. But instead of that like scowl, just imagine a rictus grin every time he talked to you, which would have been worse. So much worse.
Like, G-Man was creepy, but like not unnerving. He's just creepy.
Yeah. Yeah. If he had a weird grin, it would have pushed it.
In addition to the way he talks.
Yeah.
Oh man, I love the way G-Man talks. Like he's almost its own cryptid in the gaming world.
Yeah, no doubt, right? The man ended up chasing the boys, who later recalled his terrifying lack of ears, nose, and hair. So this wasn't something that they said they noticed originally. It was something that they noticed when they were giving details to like a police sketch artist.
And this is near the Mothman area that they find him.
This is in New Jersey.
Yeah,
this is in New Jersey about a month before, so it's not really that close. But wait for it. There's a path.
Yeah.
There's a path. While it's normally accepted that this was the first sighting of Indrid Cold, the grinning man could be a completely different entity. So there is a little bit of speculation that this grinning man is not Indrid Cold. It's just kind of widely accepted that this is the first sighting of Indrid Cold. The second encounter happened on November 2nd, 1966 in Parksburg, West Virginia. And if you want to pull up a map, you can actually start to draw a line between all of these places going towards Point Pleasant in Ohio. Because remember, New Jersey, Pennsylvania, West Virginia. We're talking about a couple of states. So about a month later, 2 states over, he's seen. This was also 13 days before the first Mothman sighting, November 2nd. Woodrow Derenberger was driving along Interstate 77 when he heard a crash, and then an unidentified vehicle appeared and landed before his truck. Woodrow described the vehicle as an old-fashioned kerosene lamp chimney, flaring at both ends, narrowing down to a small neck, and then enlarging into a great bulge there in the center. The grinning man then exited the vehicle and walked up to Woodrow, telepathically introducing himself as Indrid Cold. It was Woodrow who described him as being tan and looking much more human, with the blue suit this time instead of the green suit. He told Woodrow that he meant him no harm and just wanted to know more about the human race. He also said that he would be back to visit many more times in the future. After this first encounter, Woodrow stated that Cold also told him that he was from the planet Lunosis and the galaxy of Ganymedes. Ganymedes.
What the fuck? I've never heard of any of this.
Ganymedes?
I didn't know he had telepathic. Okay, that's fun.
If you go back and watch the movie The Mothman Prophecies, Indrid Cold plays a huge part in it.
Oh, okay.
Which might be one of the reasons that he's wrapped up in all of this nowadays.
Oh,
the third encounter happened in Point Pleasant, right around the same time. So just a couple of days or within the same range of days that Woodrow would have seen him, kind of think of. The Lilly family reported poltergeist activity within their home, including diamond-shaped lights, red eyes, buzzing, and the local dogs and cats acting erratic. Kind of pretty stereotypical poltergeist activity in a lot of ways. Linda Lilly, the daughter of the family, reported waking from a dead sleep one night to a man standing above her bed. And we have a quote from her.
It was a man. A big man. Very broad. I couldn't see his face very well, but I could see he was grinning at me. He walked around the bed and stood right over me. I screamed again and hid under the covers. When I looked again, he was gone.
Man, fuck that.
Right? It's commonly believed that Indrid is an alien entity, and he has been spotted in connection with a lot of UFO activity. And it's also been suggested that he is just one of a species of shape-shifting aliens that takes on the shape of the so-called Grinning Man. However, other theories range from poltergeist activity to pranks gone too far. One report by the police even suggested that Linda Lilly was actually visited by a deranged human man. So it was just a psychopath who had gotten into the house.
Fun.
Yeah.
Which could happen because when you actually watch shows of like serial killers and wackadoos back in this time era,
Oh yeah,
happen all the fucking
things.
time.
Yeah, it's really
They just like get into
true
people's
crime
houses
from
and
back
watch
in the
them
day.
sleep and shit.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Whatever the case, Indrid Cold became wrapped up in the Mothman sightings, and his story and importance may have only been magnified by his role in the 2002 Mothman Prophecies movie. As a bit of a teaser, Tiana Drarenberg mentions in her book that Indrid Cold might also have been known as Valiant Thor, who spent 3 years at the Pentagon. For those of you who know your alien lore, Valiant Thor is a name. He will probably get his own, if not his own, multiple episodes. But those are tales of the Men in Black, and they are for another time.
So how is this guy, the Indrid Cold guy, tied to the Mothman?
It's weird. A lot of people claimed to have seen Indrid Cold in the investigations in the like 1968, 1969 range after all the Mothman stuff had happened. So he wasn't really reported during the Mothman stuff, but when investigators came out later, so like people would see weird Mothman stuff, they would go tell the police. Then when the investigators, the paranormal guys came out, not when the police followed up, when the paranormal investigators came out after the event and interviewed people, people started bringing up Indrid Cold.
They're
so
like,
Indrid
and also
Cold,
around that time, I saw this guy. It's kind of weird.
Yeah. So he's kind of more attached from a folklore position. It's actually, depending on who you talk to, what Mothman authority you talk to, they either prescribe to Indrid Cold being a very, very important piece, or they say that he has nothing to do with it and it's just people adding. Like, it's one of those weird cases where people who believe in a weird paranormal thing are like, yeah, the Mothman's real, but Indrid Cold, that's a bunch of hokum. And you're like, really? That's where you drew the line?
Yeah.
Because I don't.
The research you did, though, like, is there a pattern at all to show that it's like, well, we talked to these people, then we talked to these people, and these people... Like, you know, say they talked to the original or the original two couples. Did they bring him up at all?
No.
Oh, interesting.
None of the original couples brought him up, but the Lilly family, who also had experiences with the Mothman, brought him up. The Lilly family had experiences with both the Mothman and Indrid Cold. And then as you track the Indrid Cold sightings, they move from New Jersey closer and closer to Point Pleasant. Now, the skeptical believers' thoughts are that all of these sightings of Indrid Cold are actually just of a species of alien that take on this continent when they interact with humans. They shapeshift to look like this. So it's not the same person. Yes. So it's not the same person.
Okay.
But the people who believe in the Indrid Cold theory and his connection to the Mothman state that it was him and that he was drawn to Point Pleasant and interacted with the Mothman specifically.
Interesting.
Well, hear me out.
The reason I brought him up is because if you go out and you read, or if you watch, if you watch any documentary about the Mothman, they will bring up Indrid Cold.
Interesting. Okay.
So the one show I've seen that I really like watching, and I wish they had more episodes on stuff, they actually went here to Point Place. They went to that TNT factory. Now, the interesting thing, I don't know if you saw it in your research, Ryan, but that building, they had a map, an official map of that entire area. So the TNT factory had a special area, like it had different military sections. Maybe it's on one of those. But then there's the section it shows that was for special research, and that's one of the other theories.
Yeah, it was a big facility.
Mothman is one of those experiments gone wrong. So now that you bring up Indrid Cold, maybe the weird thing is he's actually the Mothman. He came back for his suit Ooh.
To dip a little bit into what the Men in Black are. So, obviously, there's a set of famous movies called Men in Black that kind of go along this idea of like a government agency that deals with hiding the existence of aliens, yada, yada, yada. So that is actually based on the actual theory of Men in Black. However, if you've ever seen the show Fringe that has the Watchers in it, that's way closer to what the Men in Black are from Folklore. So the Men in Black appear to be government agents, just like Indrid Cold appears to be a man. They always show up around weird alien stuff, and they generally do something to either observe or contain alien phenomena, but not in a protecting us from, more in a protecting themselves from. So, like, Men in Black aren't people that work for the CIA who have a neuralizer. Men in Black are aliens who are specifically working against humanity to make sure that we don't believe aliens exist. The Men in Black, as far as like folklore are considered, are way darker. So the fact that the Mothman is largely considered to be a UFO related sighting supports the idea of Indrid Cold being a proto Men in Black or a Man in Black existing and being around to sort of contain the Mothman phenomena. Yeah, essentially.
Phenomena.
But I know the map you're talking about. I actually I tried to find this is it, by the way, but it is super small.
Yeah, when I watched the show and they went to that place, it's like they went in, I think, to that bunker you keep showing that the water's in front of. I think there were a couple bunkers.
And that's a very small part of the facility. It's just, it just happened to be a picture that you can find really easily.
And the crazy part was when they went in there, it was literally a step back in time. Like you could tell nobody had been in that specific place in decades.
Yeah. So I just pulled up another picture of another part of that same facility.
Yeah.
Oh, that's so creepy.
It wasn't just like a bunker out in the middle of a hill. It was an entire munitions packing plant.
It's a huge base. Yeah.
And that's why people went out there. You know, it's a good place to take a date, and you freak her or him out a little bit, and then you get a couple of kisses and a couple of cuddles. And then everything's going well, and then all of a sudden there's a giant Mothman that's like,
"What are you doing in my swamp?
Leave room for Jesus."
I love the new headcanon that it's just a drunk hobo who's like, "Excuse me, you have a minute to talk about our Lord and Savior, leave room for Jesus?"
Yeah, the Ingrid Soul, that one's interesting. That one, that's
Indrid Cold is an interesting figure.
Cold, that's
okay.
If any of this is interesting, now I'll state this right off the bat: the Mothman Prophecies from 2002 isn't a great movie. It has some nostalgia for me in it, just because of when I saw it, like when it was released, and it was one of my first, like, people other than me talk about cryptids. It's an interesting-ish movie. If you haven't seen it, I would recommend going and watching it. Just don't expect Francis Ford Coppola, or not Francis Ford Coppola. Who's the guy? Oh my God, my brain doesn't work. Martin Scorsese. Don't expect a multi-layered Martin Scorsese. Leonardo DiCaprio shoots himself in the head at the end because Leonardo DiCaprio figures out that Leonardo DiCaprio has infiltrated the mob to report on the police activities of Leonardo DiCaprio. And then you're like, what the fuck? Why is Matt Damon here? I don't know what's going on. That it's not that layered and complex of a story.
Matt Damon.
Wait, Leonardo DiCaprio was Matt Damon all along?
But
Man,
then who was John
Departed.
Malkovich?
I mean, no, I'm kidding. Who's John Malkovich?
I was like, I'm pretty sure Ryan will get that joke. I don't think anybody else in here
spit out on the
that.
side of the Jersey Turnpike. All right, so as we mentioned up top, we jumped around a little bit in our original Lorus Obscurus planned timeline, making sure that we could get you guys an episode on the Mothman during the 57th anniversary of his first sightings. Don't worry, he is a good primer as we get ready to look into the haunted region of the Appalachian Mountains and the Ozarks. Emmy, thanks for joining us as a guest today. Where can people find you online? Interact with your art, look at your miniatures, all that great stuff.
You can find me at Coral Pecan on TikTok, Instagram, Discord, Instagram Threads, and YouTube Shorts.
OnlyFans.
No.
Is that
you can?
Is that where people can find you?
Someday, perhaps there will be some Patreon content.
I really didn't
Warhammer
think so.
that's a little too grimdark.
Spicy. Did you see the one I posted in Meme Hammer earlier? That was.
Well, I mean, OnlyFans is where I post all of my toe content, where I rub like mayonnaise and marinara sauce between my toes real slowly.
Hey, everybody's got a thing.
Oh, that's sriracha.
Yes, bring that
Spicy
sriracha.
toe action.
If you have a freaky tale, a spooky dookie of your own, or an Ordo Obscurus file you want to share with us, you can reach us by email at underthehiveofmadness@gmail.com.
You can also join our community on Discord. There you can join conversations about lore, hobby, tactics of Warhammer 40k, and much more, including Age of Sigmar, Magic the Gathering, role-playing games, video games, and even more than that. Find us on Facebook or Instagram, or you can also go to www.underthehiveofmadness.com. Help our podcast grow by liking and reviewing us wherever you get your podcast fix. We're on Spotify, Apple, Google, Stitcher, and also many more.
You can support us on Patreon at www.patreon.com/underthehiveofmadness. All Patreon members get access to a video podcast with minimal editing, so you can see our lovely and beautiful faces, and also hear all of the times we completely forget what the fuck the English language is. All Patreon levels also get access to our quarterly paying contest. Plus, we have perks at higher levels, including monthly giveaways. So go on over and check that out. For those of you wondering what our newest giveaway is, we are working on more merch. We're working on some hats. We'll try to update you when we have some more information. There will be a slight delay on November's giveaway just because I will be in China. So we'll probably be doing it in December. So sorry about that, guys, but hopefully we'll be able to do maybe 2 in December, 1 in January, or 1 in December, 2 in January. We'll make up for it, we promise. By the way, Kev, you wanted to know what that giant statue outside of City Hall looked like? I just brought up a picture.
Well, that's horrifying.
Damn.
I like the chest hair. That's different.
Right?
The chest snakes.
The same thing.
They look like chest snakes. I'm just going to put it out there.
It looks like a bunch of little worms pouring out. And like the neck muscle, like tendon things are creepy.
I like how they give them an 8-pack.
Right? Or 6-pack, 6.5-pack. There's a big ass pecs. Like, damn. Superman would be jelly.
Bexy's Flackenjack, your source for all things grinding, gyrating, pulsing, and throbbing. Wait, this might be the ad read for the Carastus Weapon Manufactorum on sublevel. Excuse me. Bexy's Flackenjack, home of the all-you-can-eat sump fish and burger buffet. 2 creds a plate and 5 creds for a pony barrel of Devil's Comet Emisec. Get 'em while the supplies last.
Now with chocolate fountain.
Oh, God, and a cheese fondue fountain.
Yeah, it's actually like sacred oil, but you know.
I know where I'm sticking my meat then.
Remember, no matter what a Bexy's dancer tells you, there is absolutely no fondue in the champagne room.
Ew.
Overgrown mutant rats may not be the only unwholesome creatures roaming these treacherous domains. Stay alert, keep your blades at the ready, for we are the defiant denizens of the Rebel Voxwave, 665.66 UHMA Chemrat Radio. Reminding all of you Chemrats, Hive Mice, and Sump Ghoulies to keep those dials fixed right here. Same ratty frequency for a dose of the same ratty-ass attitude.
With his compound glowing eyes, maybe it's a hive owl, maybe it's a sump crane, maybe it's a 4-armed emperor. Either way, he's here to make sure those kids save room for the Big E.
Remember to read your Leviticus Divinito, motherfucker.
Good stuff, guys.
That was good.